there's a strange pattern. INFJs experience that most people don't understand the moment they know they're right, but still can't stop thinking about it. The answer feels clear. The intuition feels accurate. The pattern makes sense. And yet, instead of moving forward with certainty, their mind goes deeper, questioning, replaying, analyzing, as if clarity itself isn't enough. What makes this confusing is that INFJs are often right more than they realize. They pick up on patterns early, sense emotional dynamics others miss, and connect details that seem unrelated to everyone else. But instead of trusting that awareness immediately, they begin testing it. Was I too quick? Did I miss something? Is there another explanation? Their mind doesn't settle. It investigates, not because they doubt their ability, but because they don't want to be wrong about something that matters. In this video, we're breaking down why INFJs overthink even when they're right, the internal process behind their constant analysis, the fear of misjudgment, and the hidden reasons they don't act on their first instinct right away. If you've ever felt stuck between knowing and questioning at the same time, stay until the end and subscribe to Brainy Quiet Mind for more insights into the complex thinking patterns of the INFJ mind. They want absolute certainty, not just a strong intuition, need for certainty, beyond instinct, verified clarity. An INFJ can feel something with striking accuracy long before it becomes obvious. A shift in someone's tone, a pattern forming beneath repeated behavior, a quiet sense that something isn't aligned. Their intuition picks it up almost instantly. For many people, that would be enough. They would trust the feeling and move forward. But for the INFJ, that initial clarity is only the beginning, not the conclusion, because sensing something is one thing, being certain about it is something else entirely. Instead of acting immediately, the INFJ turns inward. They begin testing what they felt, not because they distrust their intuition, but because they respect its impact. If they are right, their conclusion could change how they see a person, a relationship, or a situation permanently. So they slow down. They replay the moment, analyze the details, and look for consistency across time. Was that reaction a pattern or just an exception? Did the behavior repeat or was it isolated? They examine the emotional signals, the words, the context, everything. The goal is not to prove themselves right, but to make sure they are not missing something important. This process creates a tension between knowing and confirming. The INFJ often feels the answer early, but refuses to rely on feeling alone. They want alignment between intuition and evidence. They want their internal sense to match what can be observed externally. And until those two elements connect, they remain in analysis. To others, this can look like overthinking, but internally, it is precision. They are not searching for more information. They are searching for certainty, because once the INFJ reaches that level of clarity, their decision becomes steady, calm, and final. They don't move quickly, but when they do, they move without doubt. They replay situations to test if their perception was accurate. Mental replay, pattern verification, precision check. After a conversation ends, the INFJ's mind often returns to it, not casually, but deliberately. They revisit the exact words, the tone, the pauses, the reactions. What others move past quickly, the INFJ studies again, not to dwell, but to verify. Did I read that correctly? Was that emotion genuine or masked? Did the behavior match the words? The moment is not finished for them when it ends externally. It continues internally until it makes complete sense. This replay is structured even if it feels automatic. The INFJ separates what was said from how it was said. They examine how the interaction began, how it shifted, and where something felt slightly off. They compare it with past interactions, looking for consistency or contradiction. If a pattern appears, they test it against memory. If a feeling arises, they question its source. Was it intuition or projection? Was it accurate or influenced by context? They are not looking for confirmation of their first impression. They are looking for alignment between perception and reality. For others, this process is invisible. The conversation happened once. For the INFJ, it happens multiple times until clarity forms. And with each replay, the picture becomes sharper. Small details gain meaning. Subtle signals connect. What felt uncertain becomes structured. This is why their conclusions, when they finally reach them, feel grounded and precise. They are not reacting to a moment. They are responding to a fully analyzed pattern. It may look like overthinking from the outside, but internally it is refinement. Because for the INFJ, understanding is not about what happened once. It is about what that moment reveals when seen clearly from every angle. They consider multiple perspectives to avoid misjudging others. Multiple angles, fair assessment, reluctance to judge. When an INFJ senses something about a person or situation, their first instinct is not to conclude, it is to expand. Instead of locking into a single interpretation, they begin exploring alternative explanations. What if there's context I don't see? What if their behavior comes from stress, not intention? What if I'm missing something important? This is where their mind shifts from intuition to perspective building. They do not want to be right too quickly if it means being unfair. This process creates a layered way of thinking. The INFJ mentally places themselves in different positions within the same situation. They imagine how the other person might have felt, what they might have been dealing with, and how their actions could make sense from a different point of view. They consider emotional states, past experiences, and possible misunderstandings. Each perspective becomes a version of the truth they test against what they observed. The goal is not to excuse behavior, but to understand it fully before forming a final judgment. For others, this can look like hesitation or overanalysis. The INFJ already sensed what might be true, yet they delay acting on it. But internally, this is not doubt, it is fairness. They are making sure their perception is not limited to a single interpretation, because once they reach a conclusion, it carries weight. It influences how they trust, how they connect, how they respond moving forward. And that decision is not something they take lightly. By the time the INFJ settles on what they believe is true, they have already explored multiple angles, filtered out emotional bias, and aligned their intuition with understanding. What looks like overthinking is actually restraint, a refusal to misjudge someone when the full picture has not yet been seen. They feel making the wrong conclusion about someone's intentions, fear of misjudgment, careful interpretation, delayed conclusion. When an INFJ senses something about a person's intentions, the realization doesn't immediately turn into a decision. Instead, it triggers caution, because for them, understanding someone incorrectly is not a small mistake. It has consequences. It can damage trust, change the dynamic, or close a connection that might have needed more time to be understood. And once the INFJ reaches a conclusion, they rarely return to doubt. That is exactly why they hesitate before fully accepting it. This fear is not rooted in insecurity, but in responsibility. The INFJ knows how deeply they process people. They know that their conclusions shape how they interact moving forward. If they decide someone is dishonest, distant, or misaligned, that perception becomes stable. So before allowing that shift to happen, they slow down. They question their own interpretation. They revisit the situation not once but multiple times. Was that behavior intentional or situational? Was that tone deliberate or influenced by something else? Could there be another explanation that changes the meaning entirely? For others, this can appear as hesitation or overthinking. The INFJ may seem unsure even when their intuition already sensed the truth. But internally, they are not confused. They are careful. They are making sure that their conclusion is not based on a single moment or a limited perspective. They want alignment between what they felt and what can be observed consistently over time. And once they understand, the entire dynamic changes in a way you release, because at that point, the conclusion is no longer a possibility. It is clarity. What delayed them was not doubt in their intuition, but respect for the weight of being certain about someone's intentions. Their empathy makes them question their own judgment. Empathy override, internal doubt, emotional balancing. When an INFJ senses something about a person, their intuition may already be pointing in a clear direction. But almost immediately, another force appears, empathy. Instead of moving straight toward a conclusion, they begin softening it. They imagine what the other person might be feeling, what they might be going through, and what could explain their behavior beyond the obvious. The initial perception is not rejected, but it is no longer accepted without question. This creates a tension inside the INFJ. On one side, there is clarity, the sense that something is off, misaligned, or inconsistent. On the other side, there is understanding, the ability to see the person's struggles, insecurities, or emotional context. The INFJ begins asking deeper questions. What if they didn't mean it that way? What if this behavior comes from something they haven't resolved? What if I'm interpreting it too strictly? Their empathy does not erase what they sensed, but it expands the interpretation, making the situation more complex than it first appeared. To others, this can look like hesitation or contradiction. The INFJ may sense the truth early, yet delay acting on it. But internally, they are not confused, they are balancing. They are trying to align perception with compassion, truth with understanding. They don't want to ignore what they feel, but they also don't want to misjudge someone who might simply be struggling. This is why their thinking deepens instead of concluding quickly. And once they understand here its clarity, it carries both elements, accuracy and empathy. Their decision is not just based on what someone did, but on a full understanding of why it happened. And that is what makes their conclusions feel both precise and fair. They look for hidden variables. Others might have missed hidden variables, unseen factors, deeper analysis. When an INFJ senses that something is true, their mind doesn't stop at the surface conclusion. Instead, it begins scanning for what might be missing, not because they distrust their perception, but because they understand how easily important details can remain unseen. A situation that appears simple to others rarely feels complete to them. There's always another layer to explore, another factor to consider, another piece that could change the meaning entirely. This process pushes them beyond the obvious. They start questioning the context behind what happened. Was something influencing this behavior that I didn't see? Is there a pressure, a history, or an external factor affecting the situation? They analyze timing, environment, emotional states, and patterns that extend beyond the moment itself. The INFJ is not just observing what is present, they are searching for what is absent, because sometimes the truth is not hidden in what is visible, but in what was never shown. For others, this level of analysis can feel unnecessary. The situation already seems clear. The answer already feels obvious. But for the INFJ, clarity without completeness is not enough. They are not satisfied with a conclusion that could be incomplete or influenced by missing variables. So they keep thinking, keep connecting, keep refining. And once those hidden factors are either confirmed or ruled out, something shifts. The conclusion becomes stable, not because it felt right at first, but because it holds under deeper examination. What looks like overthinking is actually expansion, a process of making sure that nothing important was left out before accepting what is true. They analyze patterns deeply before fully trusting them. Pattern scrutiny, repetition check, trust through validation. When an INFJ notices a pattern, they rarely accept it immediately as truth. Even if the pattern feels clear, even if it aligns with their intuition, they pause before trusting it fully, because they'll understand something most people overlook. One moment can mislead, but repeated moments reveal reality. So instead of reacting to a single instance, they begin watching for consistency across time. This process becomes almost methodical. They observe how the same behavior appears in different situations. They compare reactions, decisions, and emotional responses to see if they follow a predictable structure. Is this a one-time reaction, or does it repeat under pressure? Does the behavior remain the same when circumstances change? The INFJ is not looking for perfection. They are looking for stability in the pattern. Each repetition either strengthens the pattern or weakens it. And until that consistency becomes clear, they hold their conclusion in a state of caution. For others, this delay can feel unnecessary. The pattern already seems obvious. The conclusion already feels certain. But for the INFJ, trust is not built on what appears once. It is built on what proves itself over time. They are not just identifying patterns, they are testing them. And once a pattern passes that test, their trust becomes steady and difficult to change. Because by that point, it is no longer based on assumption. It is based on observation, repetition, and confirmation. What looks like overthinking is actually precision. They are not slow to understand. They are careful about what they choose to believe. They value fairness, so they double-check their conclusions. Fairness first, balanced judgment, verified truth. When an INFJ reaches a conclusion about someone, they don't accept it lightly. Even if their intuition feels accurate, even if the pattern seems clear, something inside them slows the process down. Because for the INFJ, being right is not enough. Being fair matters more. They understand that a single conclusion can shape how they see a person permanently. And before allowing that shift to happen, they need to be certain it is not influenced by bias, emotion, or incomplete understanding. This is where the double check begins. The INFJ revisits what they observed, not to confirm their belief, but to challenge it. They ask themselves difficult questions. Did I interpret this correctly, or did I assume too quickly? Am I seeing the full context, or just a part of it? Could there be another explanation that changes the meaning? They mentally step outside their own perspective and examine the situation from multiple angles. This process is not comfortable. It requires them to question their own clarity, but they do it anyway because fairness demands it. For others, this can look like hesitation or overthinking. The INFJ may already sense the truth, yet they delay acting on it. But internally, this is not doubt, it is discipline. They are making sure their conclusion is not only accurate, but justified. And once they reach that point, something changes. The need to question disappears. The decision becomes stable. Because now it is not just what they felt, it is what they verified. What appears as overanalysis from the outside is actually a commitment to fairness. They are not trying to be certain for themselves alone. They are making sure they are being fair to the other person before deciding what that truth means. They reflect on past mistakes to avoid repeating them. Past reflection, pattern correction, learned caution. When an INFJ senses something in the present, their mind doesn't stay only in the moment. It moves backward. It searches through memory, looking for similar situations, similar patterns, similar feelings that once led them somewhere they didn't expect. They remember the times they trusted too quickly, the moments they ignored subtle signs, the situations where their initial intuition was right, but they doubted it and paid the price. Those memories don't fade, they become reference points. This reflection is not about regret, it is about understanding. The INFJ revisits those past experiences with a different perspective, asking what was missed, what was misunderstood, and what should have been recognized earlier. They analyze not just what happened, but why it happened. Was it emotional bias? Was it empathy overriding clarity? Was it the desire to believe something better than what was actually true? Each question sharpens their awareness. Each answer becomes a lesson, and those lessons begin influencing how they interpret the present. For others, this can look like overthinking or hesitation. The INFJ may pause where others move forward. They may question where others feel certain. But internally, they are not stuck. They are refining. They are making sure that the same pattern does not repeat itself under a different form. And once they feel that the present situation has been fully compared, fully understood, something shifts, their clarity becomes stronger, not weaker. Because now, it is not only based on what they feel in the moment, but also on what they have already learned. What looks like hesitation is actually protection, a way of making sure that growth is real, not just repeated awareness without change. They trust their intuition, but only after mentally verifying it, intuition first. Verification second. Final certainty. When an INFJ senses something, it often arrives quickly and clearly, a feeling that something is off, a recognition of a pattern forming beneath the surface, a quiet understanding of someone's intentions without needing direct proof. This intuitive signal is rarely random. It is built from countless observations, emotional awareness, and pattern recognition working together. But even with that clarity, the INFJ does not act immediately. Because for them, feeling something is not enough. They need to confirm it. This is where the mental process begins. The INFJ steps back and begins analyzing what they sensed. They replay interactions, examine details, and test the intuition against observable behavior. Does the pattern repeat, or was it a single moment? Do actions consistently match the feeling, or is there contradiction? They look for alignment between what they felt internally and what can be seen externally. This process is not about doubting their intuition. It is about strengthening it. They want their understanding to be complete, not partial. For others, this can look like overthinking or delay. The INFJ may already know what feels true, yet they wait before acting on it. But internally, this is not hesitation. It is calibration. They are making sure their intuition is not influenced by emotion, bias, or incomplete information. And once that verification is complete, something changes. The questioning stops. The clarity stabilizes. The decision becomes firm, because now the intuition is no longer just a feeling, it is a confirmed understanding, and when an INFJ reaches that point, They no longer second guess themselves. They move forward with a calm certainty that does not need to be explained, justified, or proven again. Overthinking was never about confusion, it was about precision. When an INFJ pauses, questions, and replays, it's not because they don't know. It's because they want to be sure they're seeing the full truth, not just a part of it. Their mind doesn't settle for quick answers. It tests, refines, and verifies until intuition and reality align. And once that alignment happens, the clarity they reach is not fragile. It's final. If you recognize this pattern in yourself, don't rush it. Understand it. Let me know in the comments which of these signs you've experienced the most. And if you want to keep exploring the deeper thinking patterns of INFJs and the hidden psychology behind their decisions, subscribe to Brainy Quiet Mind, where insight goes beyond intuition.